High five.
Drei Gläser.
Two. One.
That's no moon.
What's up, everybody? We are live. It is episode 21 of the Hardcore Casual Podcast. I messed that up, didn't I? I missed our whole little thing. I've been run ragged a little bit today, Jay.
Yes, I know.
So I will say that he is Jay of F1 Podcast fame.
Hello.
I am Mason of Radio Infamy, and we are the conversation at the land of the free behind you in this day before the
Patriot
4th of July
edition.
episode. So
Welcome to the Merc edition.
yeah, the Merca edition.
Yeah.
And I've got purple and I've got yellow. I should have worn red, white, and blue. You got green. So obviously we did not do our part.
Yeah, I thought it was St. Patty's Day, but whatever.
Well, hey, close enough. So it has been quite the week. I was just telling Jay that I've been on vacation, and I thought I would have so much. I've got so much time. Be able to do so much. I'll beat Death Stranding 2. I'll catch up on some of my Netflix backlog. None of that happened. I have done none of those things. So yeah. However, this weekend I do hope to get some more stuff done this weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just been a bunch of errands all week long.
Yeah. It's almost now that when you go on vacation, you have to actually go on vacation, or you won't get anything that you want to do done.
Or you should just not tell anybody. I think that's the trick. Just don't
Yeah,
tell
good luck
anybody
with
when you
that.
go on vacation, because then it's like, oh well, then you can do this and you can help with this.
Yeah. Yeah, that works until you have kids.
But is there anything else that you want to cover before we kind of break into some of these news stories?
Well, I've got some small stories that I think we can get out of the way real quick before we start. To quote Major Payne, before we start getting blood and guts and spitting ass everywhere on here. But and I know this is a heartbreaker for millions of people. Anthem is shutting down in January. Now, a lot of times you hear games are shutting down, but you can still play them. Unfortunately, Anthem requires an online connection to play. And here endeth the lesson on why online only it sucks. Is now that the game's going down, you won't be able to play it at all.
So, are you aware of this Stop Killing Games initiative that's been back in the news
I am
recently?
not.
So it's ironic, the timing here, or should I say fitting, because there is currently going on right now a campaign. It's called Stop Killing Games, and there is a European Union petition that someone there's a whole movement, and it's being the guy's name escapes me. I'm sorry. I literally just got back home, guys, so I couldn't do the the prep that I needed to for this story once Jay told me that he was bringing it up. But the whole thing is trying to get 1 million signatures on this petition. We could even put it in the show notes or put it below. And basically, if they amass $1 million, it like gets it onto some sort of thing where the European Union can make some kind of vote on it. It essentially would require companies to still allow access to games once they're taken offline, once they're end of life.
Yeah.
They would still maintain the IP. They would still, they wouldn't be having to give over code or anything like that. They would just have to make
turning off the online stuff.
There would just have to be some sort of way that people could still access it, because this is a recurring thing. In fact, the game that spurred this whole movement on was The Crew.
Yes, I do remember reading that.
Okay, yeah. So
because people were, it blew my mind because I didn't play The Crew 1. I played Crew 2, which I loved, and I liked Motorfest. But I could not believe the amount of people coming out of the woodwork, absolutely pissed about Crew 1 going down.
Yeah, so it comes down to game preservation because we have these games that thousands, hundreds of people spend years of their lives making, and then one day you just can't access it anymore. It vanishes as though it never existed.
Well, that and the fact that, and maybe this is the Gen X in me, but I bought that shit, man. That's my shit. You can't show up in my house and go, yeah, we're not using those anymore. Whatever it is, we have to take this tchotchke with us. Okay, then give me some money.
It comes down to the you will own nothing thing, where you buy these games and you're buying a license, even though you have the physical copy of the game. If you have a physical, most people just have digital. I do mostly digital.
I do too.
But but it doesn't matter because even if you had the physical copy, you can't play it. It doesn't do anything. So it is funny that this could fall into it. Now, granted, one of these two games is a bit more beloved than the other. Anthem doesn't exactly have the most ardent fan base clamoring to get access to it. However, there was still some good stuff in there that would be good to maintain. You had the flying mechanics, which were phenomenal.
They were. And
you also have, which I imagine this could be something too, you have voice actors and actresses that did stuff for this game. And if they're trying to get roles elsewhere, it makes it a lot more difficult for employers to gain access to their previous work.
And they lose their residuals on purchases for it.
It's a weird thing. So I don't know. I hope that there is something that can be done to keep these preserved because it's becoming more and more of a thing. This online, and once the servers shut down, there's no part of it that's offline. We have Outriders was another one that was going to be this sort of looter shooter thing, kind of like a Destiny sort of in that same vein.
It was pretty good.
I enjoyed it. It was fine.
Yeah.
But it didn't. They actually were working on a sequel. It was almost done. They had Outriders 2. It was almost complete, and then it got canceled, shelved, and now it's all going away. And you're not going to be able to play it. There's a lot of these games that they just vanish, and I don't know. There's been this big resurgence in the game preservation space, and that's one I'm aware of. Like I said, it might not be some instant classic that people are absolutely clamoring to have saved or maintain access to, but there's reason to do it. And it's one of those things where if the European Union could require it, it would be one of those things where it's a ripple effect, where if the studios have to adhere to this regulation in Europe, they're going to do it everywhere because there's no reason to sort of try to, and even if they didn't, obviously once it's preserved there, we could get it preserved. So it would be a ripple effect if we could get it there, but that's the closest opportunity that we have to getting some sort of preservation there. And that petition is open through July 31st. So still got a month. I'm not sure exactly where they are on that petition right now, how many signatures they've got, but anybody that's in the European Union, feel free to look that position up and find that.
Yeah. So, and it's got me scared to death for a game I'll get on and play like probably once every 5 or 6 months for a little bit because I did like it, which was Marvel's Avengers. And I'm worried because now we have rivals in that space, and of course, it absolutely caters to the ADHD, OCD, OB, LOBB, DART, that group of people. And I liked the Avengers game, and like Anthem, though, it was underwhelming for some people that everything's geared around their loot. But one thing they did that was cool, even when they announced that they stopped support, they opened up the store and let you have the whole store. But like Anthem, you cannot play that without an online connection. And it's got me scared to death. They're going to the EA is going to look at this and go, okay, well, we took Anthem down. What's next on the block? Oh, it's got to be Marvel's Avengers because we already got Rivals.
That's what it comes down to a lot of times. It's
Yeah.
the bottom line. People are saying like, wait, why
That
are we?
sucks.
Somebody goes to sign a check and they're like, wait, why are we still paying 20 grand a month for this server in Sweden or whatever? And like, oh, that's where we have the Marvel thing. And like, oh, let's just shut that down. We don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, and I realize they could be like, well, you're being hypocritical because you're not really doing anything to, and I'm talking about me, you're not really doing anything to help it by not playing it. But I shouldn't have to. I own it. Every now and then when I get hey, I want to be Iron Man for a little bit, I'll play it. And I should be able to do that forever.
Yeah. Well,
I'm moving to the EU. I'm going to take Ireland up on that. Please move to a coastal cottage and we'll pay you $10,000 a month. Deal, whatever that scam is.
Yeah. Well, I know that there was a new game that just released that's based in the Control Alan Wake universe.
FBC, Firebreak.
Yeah, yes. That just came out, and their whole philosophy towards that is like, yeah, it's an online shooter, but that it's really not designed to have you go there every day after day, over and over and over again. They said like, hey, we've got this stuff. The whole idea is for you to come, enjoy, get your fill, and then come back periodically, or just come back the next time there's like an update and then do that. Like they're not trying to do the whole thing where like, they do like this big expansion, they do this update, they get new players, and they're like, oh, we have this season, the season pass or battle pass or this or that. And it's not intended to do that thing where they're trying to find ways to bring you on all the time, where they would just bring you on for these expansions, let you get your fill, and then go on, and not try to bug you and try to coax you back. Oh, if you log on for 7 days in a row, you get this. Now, granted, well, that sounds awesome. They're currently suffering with low player base right now. Yeah. And it's one of those things where maybe the things that we hate, sometimes like that's what it takes to get going. It's like one of the things that I refuse to do whenever we put a video out is do the exaggerated like face, where it's like so clearly
clickbait face.
Yes, I refuse to do that, but unfortunately that's what gets clicks.
You should hold one of those panels up that's like a blank cardboard that literally has clickbait face written on it, and just hold it up in front of
Man, yeah, because I just refuse to do that. Like I don't want to be that, but that's what gets clicks. It's the thing that works. So it's like anytime that you got these people that stand up, it's like I appreciate what they're doing, but right now they're struggling. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a rough game to play. Yeah, not that game. It's the game of, hey, where do we draw the line between not trying to take advantage of our players, but still maintaining or getting enough players that we can survive?
Yeah, that's true. I really can't believe that lasted this long. That was supposed to be one of my quick categories.
Well, there you go. That's how it goes here.
Okay, so I'm trying to do one of the other quick ones. So it looks like on August 26th, Xbox is going to be able to help spread democracy. And
did I hear a woo in the background?
Yeah, you did.
Was that Rob?
Yeah, I'm sure. And Lord knows I haven't been spreading enough democracy. I mean, I did.
Tell him he doesn't get to woo in the background until he joins the show.
I did serve it for 10 years. So, like, it's one of those things where I feel like I've done my part for king and country. But anyway, yeah, they're getting their own version of Helldivers 2. I'm sure they'll get their own little aesthetic skins and shit. And, yeah.
Will it be so I saw that. Obviously, I had things going on today. I wasn't able to look at it, but is it going to be cross-platform? Don't know either.
I didn't dig either, but I'm sure it will be because, I mean, you get cross-plat on PC to PlayStation, so I'm sure they'll have it.
Yeah, but PlayStation gets weird.
Yeah, and I know what would have. I'm glad one thing they didn't do, because it would have. PlayStation Nation would have went ballistic as if they would have put it on Game Pass.
Well, excuse me. When they did that with MLB The Show, that was a thing where people lost their minds.
Well, yeah, because that was already a PS exclusive game, and then you're like, "Hey, we're gonna put this on Game Pass for free." Are you kidding me right now, man? Yeah, I was pretty pissed about that.
No, I don't blame you there. I don't blame you there. But I played it. That was how I played MLB The Shows whenever it went on Game Pass. But I am interested with this Helldivers 2 thing, and I may be off base here, but I honestly think this is because of Xbox's new strategy, where they have the unified library,
Right.
where if you buy it on Steam, you will then be able to play it on Xbox. And obviously, this is starting with the Xbox handheld,
Which
that
is
they're going to
great, 'cause
be
they're
having,
not gonna
which
have
is great. But I
Because they're
think
not
that's
going to have any
that's
employees to support it anyway.
I think this is PlayStation. I think that forced PlayStation's hand here, where they went ahead and put it on Xbox because they knew this was coming, and now they're like, okay, well, at least give them a chance to buy it so that we can at least get some Xbox money instead of them just getting it from Steam, pulling it over and playing it that way. I think they're like, well, it's gonna get there inevitably one way or the other, so we might as well try to make some additional cash.
Anyway, though, I'm happy for them. They get to play it, and so that'll have everybody on it except for the Nintendroid guys.
Maybe it'll make it easier to defend Super Earth.
Yeah.
And
I think they ought to just release it on Switch 2 and call it Helldivers 2 Cannon Fodder, and just force all Nintendo Switch players to just be cannon fodder for everybody else.
Well, I do need to get back onto Helldivers. I got to see what's going on there. I know that they did just release the cape that mimics the user score.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, the cape that everybody wanted, it now exists. It's real and everybody's got it. So I need to log on, collect that, and I need to defend democracy yet again.
Yeah, I know that my son dragged me back into. Every time I get out, they drag me right back into Monster Hunter Wilds this past weekend.
Oh.
And so, much like Helldivers 2, it was a welcome respite for a little while, so I enjoyed it. But did some of that Street Fighter stuff and then realized I didn't want to do any more of that Street Fighter stuff. So, cool. But I have one more small story because I'm afraid to bring some of this stuff up, but balloons into shit. But Subnautica 2, which I'm waiting on, and we've talked quite a bit about underwater games and how much they mean to us. But I was interested in this one because it's going to be the first one that's co-op. I think it's only you and one friend. I don't think we're going to get the full 4-player.
Like 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought after Satisfactory and No Man's Sky, maybe they'll give us the 4-person co-op because that would have been legit. But anyway, in a surprise move today, and shocking move, they shit-canned their entire creative staff. And I mean the whole staff. Like, no one was left alive. And brought in a company called Crafton, and also, like you, I didn't have time to prep this story. Like, it hit my feed right before we went on. But Crafton, this company, and I don't even know what they've done before. They've taken over early access development on Subnautica 2, and they say they will bring renewed energy and momentum, whatever the F that means.
Do we know anything about like what led to this? Like,
I don't. I'm going to look at it when we get done with this, obviously, and we'll have more for it. If it's a bigger story, I'll have more next week for it, obviously. But it was just something because it's a game I'm looking forward to.
To have something like an entire team like wiped, and then to bring on some other company and then put out a statement like that as damage control instead of something like, hey, we regret that we had to come to a difficult decision, the blah 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 blah. Instead, they're like, hey, we're gonna be happy about it again. Like,
which as much of a shit show as Skull and Bones was and is. They never gave the axe to the entire staff. It was always, pick and play on who had a job still.
They got to play musical chair with the game director's office.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a weird story. And
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm done with that. All I've got is 2 rather big stories, one of which you already have on your list as well. So I'm good to go.
Well, one of them I think kind of rolls into this, and that is unfortunately what's going on with Microsoft and Xbox.
Yeah, man.
That was out of the blue. Basically, we have now had announced so far 4% or 9,100 or so jobs gone at Microsoft, and heavily hit is Xbox, the Xbox division, and Xbox Studios. And there, as a result, there's at least one studio closure. Some other studios are, I would dare say, crippled by what has now come on, and we've now had games canceled as a result of it.
Perfect Dark remake, which I'm gonna be flat out. I've never played a Perfect Dark. It just didn't ever grab me, but I know it's a beloved franchise. I get that. So anytime a game that people are looking forward to gets canceled, I'm pissed for them. But
Well,
yeah,
and then so we also had the Initiative, the game, the game company, the Initiative, or the game studio, the Initiative, is completely shut down, no longer exists. We have a large number of layoffs coming to High Moon Studios, which I was a big fan of. High Moon Studios. They were the ones that did the War for Cybertron, those Transformers games.
Oh, dude.
Those were phenomenal games.
Both of those games were. I mean, there was two, right? There was
War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron.
Yeah, War for Cybertron was the best one, without a doubt.
Yeah, and then after that, I know there was some issues with the license, which is why you can't actually buy those games anymore. They're not on digital shops. They've been delisted.
You can find torrents.
Yeah.
Of them, and some places where I found some of those other games, where I found the James Bond games. But
back to Don't Kill Games, like that was. I mean, those are fantastic games, and they're gone. They got snapped out of existence. But then after that, they had this great success with those games. And then they've been playing more of a support role in recent years. Before Sony bought Destiny or Bungie, they did a lot of help on Destiny stuff. They did a lot of help, sort of support on different Call of Duty games. They're a great studio, and they've been hit hard. So, and also along with Perfect Dark getting canceled, which was recently just kind of re-announced about a year ago. I think it was that they dropped the trailer and letting everybody know it's coming, and now it's gone. And then there was a game called Everwild, which was being developed by Rare, and Rare, great history of phenomenal games. Yeah, and of course, right now, Sea of Thieves. But Everwild is now canceled, and this is just in February of this year. Phil Spencer went out in an interview and said, we're going to give Everwild as much time as it needs to become what it needs to be. Here we are. Yeah, it's July 1st. This all started at the end of June. So we did not go far before that didn't mean anything anymore.
That's why his statement today, where he said everything that was named or announced in the showcase is still safe. And I was like, okay, whatever.
For now, maybe.
Yeah, right.
So that's one thing. And there's one more final spit in the face to go along with this story. But before I get to that, I do just want to say this. I am a fan of Phil Spencer. I think that he is a force for good in general. I think he's one of the few executives that's actually a gamer. He actually does play games. He actually does care about games. He is Uncle Phil. We love Phil Spencer.
Doesn't badmouth Sony. Doesn't badmouth Nintendo. In fact,
actually, classy guy.
In fact, longs for a day when we all just get along and work together. It'll never happen, but still.
Yeah. But that said, this cannot be seen as anything other than an absolute pattern of failure. This is just the latest in a string of absolute failures. And don't get me wrong, he was handed a shit show after what happened with Xbox One and all of that. Whenever he got handed that after certain people were removed from their positions and he was elevated in the role that he was. But this doesn't happen at Sony. Sure, some things happen at Sony. Some things don't work out. We've got Marathon, which is an absolute trash fire at Sony-owned Bungie right now. But to this level, this does not happen at Sony.
No, it doesn't.
I love Phil. I think he's great, but there's something's not clicking. Something's not being managed properly. You have this that's you're terminating all these people across multiple studios. You've got games that are struggling. And how many, it seems like every single time we have a first party Xbox game, there's nothing but rumors and stories in the background about how it's struggling. How Everwild had to be rebooted from scratch. Same thing for Perfect Dark. We heard a lot of stuff back in the background about how that development was troubled. There was the one where it was the guy that had the headphones and he rode the dragon. I don't remember what that was called anymore, but that was there's all these games that
I'm glad I don't know what that is.
Somebody
That sounds
knows.
awful.
Somebody knows.
That sounds
but anyways,
bad.
We had all of these, so many of these games. Every time there's an Xbox original, it's just it seems to be marred with this. It's just plagued by mismanagement. I don't know. Like Phil's job is to go to these places and say like, hey, where are you hitting resistance? What are you running into? Let's ease that path. What problems do we need to solve for you? You know, we're Papa Microsoft. We're Daddy Warbucks. Do you have a?
I hate to say it, but it sounds like he was delegating a lot of that stuff down, and then he wasn't getting good feedback from those people. Like they were probably doing the whole, yeah, we got it, we're taking care of it. This
is the thing where
great trap.
You can't. I say this in my real job a lot, which is you can't get feedback. You can't police people by the same people that you're trying to police. You can't, if you have somebody in charge of a department, you can't go to that person and ask the status of that department because they're not going to tell you anything that makes them look bad. Yeah. So, hey, how are things going? Oh, they're great. They're fantastic here. Like they could not be better. Like,
I'm one of those flat out. Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm like, dude, this is a fucking shit show today. What do you want to know?
So yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know. It makes me sad. We have, like I said, there's so many people that have lost their jobs. Yeah. We've got a pattern of failures and it's like I said, shit show. It's just this is all we see. This seems to be all we see. Every once in a while, there will be something like Indiana Jones. Yeah, that is great. It's an Xbox exclusive for the time, or a Microsoft exclusive, and then okay, great. But for the most part, it just seems like troubled development after canceled game, after shut down studio. Even when we have successes, there like the studio that was shut down for, I can't think of the name of the game. It was a rhythm fighter, like a rhythm brawler game with the guy on a guitar. I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but anyways, it sold great. It did great.
Hellsinger or whatever.
But it did great. It was a fantastic hit, and studio got shut down after on the back of a hit, and it's just awful. And this is the insulting thing. So now, after all of this, just today it was leaked that Microsoft had sent out this email invitation to heads of their studios they're going to be attending Gamescom. There's going to be a Gamescom thing, right, and they're going to have this panel about how AI can be utilized to be more efficient as a studio. And they were sent out these invitations to ask these studios to participate in this.
I don't like where this is going.
Literally hours after some of these studios were gutted of what made them great.
What would be worse is if it were studios, and I'm not talking about game studios, but software studios that developed the AI that replaced them.
Yeah.
How shit would that be, man?
It's just awful no matter how it's cut. I hate this.
Yeah. Dude, 9,000 people. That's a lot of people, man.
Yeah. It's 4%. It's 4% of Microsoft. And Microsoft is a massive company.
It's half the town I live in.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah, it's a lot of people, and like I said, that's we have, and it just got announced that John Romero, who
I saw that
has his own studio, and Xbox was. I'm not entirely sure of the arrangement. I was trying to read some of it before coming. I'm not entirely sure of the arrangement because his studio was not. It wasn't like a partnered studio. It wasn't like an Xbox owned studio. It wasn't Xbox Studios,
Right.
But the John Romero or Romero Games is his studio. But via some agreement, Xbox or Microsoft was funding his next game. And for those of you that might not know, John Romero is the co-creator of Doom.
Yeah.
So legendary game designer, and his game is now lacking of funding. So it's not canceled yet, but it has no source of funding.
And I feel like he's got enough street cred to where his will survive somewhere.
Somewhere, some way, somehow. I don't know. We'll see what they do. But
it reminds me a lot, dude. This whole thing is, and I know you know what I'm talking about when I talk about this, but a movie that you're super interested in, and then you hear about reshoots, and then the director leaves, and then a new guy comes in, and now they have to adapt the screenplay to fit the new director's style, and then there's reshoots again, and then it's in post-production hell for 3 or 4 months, and then we end up seeing a movie that was filmed 4 freaking years ago.
6 times.
6 times. And they got to call actors back for, hey, you got to reshoot this scene. Dude, I've got gray hair now.
Well,
I've got a beard for this other role I'm in.
And not only that, it becomes this Frankenstein's monster of a movie. The scene, Act 1 and 3 were shot, here, and then some of Act 2 was shot here, and it's all blended together, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's why so many of these movies feel disjointed, because they are. That's been Marvel's. That's been Marvel's problem for in recent years, is they no longer go in with a game plan. They go in with a scrapbook. They shoot multiple endings. Then none of those work, and so they go back and they reshoot again. Yeah. It was announced that Fantastic Four went through reshoots like weeks ago, like 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. That movie releases this month. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
this is insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awful. This whole thing. I don't know. It's just bad. I don't know. I don't know. It just and AI that's. I know that a lot of people are apprehensive of AI coming to games, but it's one of those things that, unfortunately, just like the movies, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But it's a matter of what. I don't know. I don't know how it governs itself. Like
Kraken Cylons.
Well, sorry. So some of it, I think we will lose a recognizably human element to a lot of the stuff. Like, if they're going to be having AI do something, I mean, there's still some things that you can watch and be like, that's AI. That AI did that. It just seems weird. I think there might be some of that stuff where it's just not going to be, I don't know. We'll see. But it's just going to lose that human touch. But I don't know if it's going to be a thing where we will be able to recognize some of it. I don't know. I just don't want to support. I don't want to support stuff like this, man. Like, it makes it really hard.
I don't either, Mason. I really don't, man. I think I'm with you on the fact that it's a way of life now and it's got to happen. And I don't mind if they're using it in ancillary roles.
Yeah.
For support stuff. Like, hey, we need AI to come up with the credits list, and we need, whatever. I don't like it when we've got AI acting, because I've heard that in a lot of Steam early access games, and it is horrid. And
so I think some of it, I think we can understand, and maybe that can regulate it to a point. Is people will be like, oh, this is garbage. I don't want this. So I'm hoping that maybe that will kind of create some form of self-regulation, just because the product that we get is noticeably inferior.
Yeah. And here's my thing. If a game developer's like, hey, we haven't hired the voiceover cast yet, but in order for the development to continue, we need to be able to hear these spoken lines. Yeah. Use AI to populate your dialogue, then go back and overdo it with,
What I kind of hope that they would use AI for would be something along the lines of, let's say we have an environmental artist in a game, and they are working on this environment for the game, and so that they can focus on more important tasks to direct their attention to. Use AI to be like, hey, give me some code so that when the wind blows, the grass sways, or something like that, where it's like, instead of this guy wasting 12 hours, 24 hours of his life in work time and trying to like do this and figure out okay, you do that. And then I will work on this really intricate maze that I'm supposed to be creating out of rocks here to map this out. And I don't know, but something like that, where it's like, okay, something menial that will allow an actual person more time to dedicate their talents to more important tasks within the game. Okay, that I could see being useful. And like I said, AI is coming one way or another. That would be a way where I'll be like, okay, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. But I like you said, I want it to be a tool used by these people instead of a I don't know, a plug used to a scab used to replace them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, even if it's, hey, we got this gigantic open world, obviously within each biome, we're going to have some reused assets for terrain and use the AI even to repopulate that. You're going to laugh your butt off because this is how weird I am about stuff. So the other night I'm playing Death Stranding 1. And because I'm trying to finish it again, and I'm climbing up this gigantic mountain, and there was a small, probably a 10 square foot area of rocks. And I'm going up through there and I almost fall. And then I get up over the top and then I fall. An hour later, I'm going over a smaller rock formation. And as I'm going, I'm like, man, this is weird. And I literally the same movements I had made on the big mountain. I was like, wait, is this the same 10 square foot section just pasted onto a small? And I literally put all my cargo down and backtracked like an hour and a half. and I literally took the picture, and then I came back and I was like, what the F, dude? so
AI could have made it a little bit different.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like AI could take that and go, hey, it would know I've already used this. Let's reverse it, flip it, turn it upside down, whatever.
Or just change it, make some variation.
Yes.
Reshape it.
And I'm all for that. And that's fine. Just the human stuff needs to stay human.
Yeah, because those are the kinds of things that could reduce crunch and that kind of thing, where we've got people working overtime, days and nights, working weekends, giving
that part I definitely get
as we near release dates. And if we could give the developers more time to do the important stuff and take the load off of these menial tasks, making the grass move, making the rain, make sure that we're showing collision whenever it rains on everything here, make sure that the rocks are showing that the rain's hitting it, and this and that, all those little things, get those out of the way for these people to let them do the more important heavy lifting. So I don't know, but it's bad. I'm sure we're now going to be, not far from having a call where Xbox and Microsoft announced record profits after laying off these 9,100 people. At least I hope, as is their way.
Yeah.
So, and apparently they've invested like $80 billion in AI or something like that. It's I don't know. It's just sad. I hate that it's happening. I hate to see people losing their jobs, and I hate this march towards the dehumanization of games, because it's hard enough to try to make the case with some people and some media and all that stuff about how games are art. And it's been a long fight to have people consider or even make the argument for games being art. And then if it's being made by AI,
which is sad to me,
there's no argument anymore. It's not art.
Yeah, it's absolutely sad. Anyway, tough story. We'll obviously keep following it and bringing it up on here.
Yeah.
I only have one more gaming story that could potentially, this will either go super fast or this will turn into an absolute shit show of comments. But in a totally obvious EA move. Okay, let me start with this. So multiplayer shooters. Usually it's just almost like Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. You either liked one and hated the other or vice versa. Call of Duty Battlefield. I've always been more of a Battlefield guy because I feel like it shows the total combined arms of the military instead of just you being a infantry grunt on the ground. Also, it feels like Battlefield's a little more tactical to me.
It's also not had the copy and paste treatment like Call of Duty has gotten to the point of, where it's
Absolutely
very little variation. Now it's just a product that gets regenerated over and over. It's Madden.
Yeah, it's a Twitch shooter, and it drives me nuts. But Battlefield, I've always loved those games, especially the Bad Company games back in the day, and even going so far back to Battlefield 42 on the PC and Battlefield Vietnam. But Battlefield 6, currently being developed by EA DICE, $400 million budget. And you think that's this story, but this is the part of the story I want to allude to. $400 million budget. There's a lot of movies that don't have a $400 million budget. OG Star Wars didn't have $400 million budget between all three of the original movies.
There are Marvel movies that don't have $400 million budgets.
Yeah, especially if you're watching that dumpster fire. Anyway, moving on. EA wants 100 million players. Now, I didn't have enough time to research this, but I would like to know which game has the most players, because 100 million. I don't know how many players Fortnite has or Apex. And I hope they're not talking about concurrent players, but they want 100 million players playing Battlefield 6. And this is the best part of this is the story right here. The developers are like, yeah, no freaking way.
Yeah, I mean, the only game that could even, I think, hope to achieve that level of success would be GTA 6. And over the course of time, not on launch. You know, that's going to be a thing like GTA 5. You know, it's been re-released on multiple consoles across multiple generations, and this and that. Maybe get it there, but this is the thing where it's this corporate mindset that I absolutely hate, and it's something that we've talked a lot about previously, because it's the Ouroboros, it's the snake eating its tail. It's the thing where you, as a company, the first objective is exponential, infinite growth. You can always get more. More people can always buy your product. So you have something like, again, we often use it as an example. Sorry to pick on you, Netflix. So you get Netflix. They want to get more people, more subscribers, keep getting more people in, more originals, more this, more that, whatever you can do to bring in more people, show exponential growth. Hey, we got X percentage more, X percentage more, X percentage more every quarter, every year over year. This whole thing, grow. But there's not an infinite amount of people in the world. There's not an infinite number of people that have access to your service. There's not an infinite amount of money in the world for people to spend to get this service. At some point, you have reached market saturation, where you have achieved the max amount of customers that you can. You are a sponge, and you can no longer hold any more water. You've taken on all that you can. So then what that leads to is phase 2, exponential growth, no longer working, up the price. So now that we can't grow anymore, now we just have to milk our existing customer base for money. So you squeeze them a little bit and get some more money. As you squeeze, people leave. And now you've got fewer people. Well, we need to keep making more money, so you charge those fewer people even more money to make up for the law. It's just this vicious cycle where you crank up and then you slowly lose everything you built. And
the worst part is bringing new people in.
Yes.
And they'll bring new people in and go, hey, it's only $9.99 for the first 6 months. And everybody else that's been loyal forever has been paying $19.99 a month for those 6 months.
So I have no idea how they hope to achieve something like this. And then
that's a lot, dude. 100 million players.
And then it's like, at what point do you hope to reach that? Are you hoping to reach that in 6 months? Are you hoping to reach that across 10 years? What are you wanting to? And then how long, even if such a number could be achieved, how long would you expect to hold their attention? How many of these people would do that? And then what does that mean for your development cycle? Are you planning on trying to make one of these every 15 years? I don't.
need you'd need to have a dev house just for DLC content, because we have entered an era of gaming where we are and I mean we are fiends for content. And that's what happens to a lot of these games that come out and don't immediately have some extra content. They're gone, they're done, they're dead.
Well, and this brings us to, I guess, something else that we've talked about before. And whenever we've talked about this whole argument for $80 games and all of this, and that's the argument that they always say is, well, the cost of game development's gone up. Now we're investing more, we're hiring more people, we're doing all this. That's not what we asked for. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have photorealistic games where I can count the pores in my hero's nose every time he comes on screen. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be. That can be a thing. If that's your thing and you want to hang your hat on graphical fidelity, okay, fine. But that's not what we need. We have so many games that do just fine with a unique art style or something like that.
Fortnite.
Borderlands, all these things. We don't need this. This is not what we asked. That's your decision. We're not demanding that you do this stuff. So it's this thing where they always talk about the increasing cost of development. Now, granted, to an extent, this is true because cost of living, this and that. So even the same number of developers that maybe you used 5 years ago, it's going to be more now. But it's not this exponential explosion that they keep talking about. That's on them. Yeah. That's not something that we're requiring. So $400 million, I don't even know what you do with that.
Yeah, I don't.
Where does that go?
I mean, I don't know if they're doing a single player campaign and need voice actors. I don't know if it's a lengthy where they've already got planned content, timed release content going across the board. But man, you brought up a really good point about what we do and don't need. And I don't know how much it costs to develop the game Minecraft. I'm sure it was upwards of $50, but still, man, you see my point? And
yes,
I don't play it, but I know its impact on this world, and on not just on gaming, just in the world in general. There's people out there that have never touched Minecraft that if they hear something, they'll know it's from Minecraft. So I get that Battlefield's not going to be Minecraft and won't be successful if it looks like Minecraft. That's not what I'm saying. But my point is that you're right. They need to look at what they need and don't need. They also need to be realistic, because it's not fair to DICE, who have managed this franchise since the beginning. And even though now they're a subhouse of EA, it's not fair to DICE to go. Of course, EA is not going to give a shit about what's fair, but it's not fair to DICE to go to them and go, we want 100 new subscribers. Here's 100 million players. Here's $400 million. Make that shit happen.
Well,
that's not, man, come on.
Well, it's the thing. This has been a thing, something that has happened to me at jobs before, where there's a task. Hey, this is what we need to happen. Okay, well, that'll take this long. Let's say, okay, well, that's going to take 6 weeks. Okay, you have 2.
We'll give you 2 days.
Exactly. And then you're like, well, that's not possible. Well, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Yeah. Okay, so then what do? You crunch, you work overtime, you give up your weekends, you everything that you can to get this unreasonable deadline met.
Right.
And then if you come in and you slide right into that deadline and you make it by the skin of your teeth because of all the hours of sleep that you missed and all of this blood, sweat, and tears that you poured into it, and you make it work. You meet this deadline, this unreasonable deadline, instead of them saying like, oh, wow, you killed it. That's a great job. They say like, oh, so it was reasonable. You probably could have gotten it done quicker. So then the next time,
here's a $5 gift card to Little Caesars.
Yeah, next time they're gonna want it done in 1 week, and it's just and there's no satisfying that beast. So the EA is not going to be, no matter how, even if DICE did it, even if they got this $100 million player base or whatever, it's not going to be good enough for EA. They're going to say like, oh, well, we aimed too low then. If you met it, then we should have aimed for 150 million. So there's no satisfying the corporate beast, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. And there's various versions of the same type of thing in the not corporate but government sector too, where this is your budget for the year and you have to spend every red cent, because if you don't,
They're like, oh, you didn't need all that money then.
your budget next year is going to be what you spent this year plus probably a third less. So whatever money they give you, you spent every red cent of it.
Yeah, it's just an awful game to play. I hate this. I hate it. It's a slow news day, but the news this week sucks.
Yeah, but it's impactful.
It's very
and not just impactful immediately, but impactful on setting a precedent for things.
This is a butterfly flapping its wings.
Yeah,
and the tsunami's on its way.
That's all I had on games, dude. I don't know what you got left, unless you want to talk about some DS2.
I do have one thing, and
okay.
I want to start off by saying, Randy, take a seat. We're all friends here, and we care about you.
Should I hoped he forgot?
So
there we go.
This is our intervention for Randy Pitchford. Stop me if you've heard this one. Randy Pitchford got on Twitter, and boy, did it not go well. Someone take Randy's phone. Take his phone. I'll do it. I live 15, 20 minutes away from headquarters. Just give me a key card and a red button that turns off Randy's Wi-Fi, and I can save this game. Just let me do this. Let me do this. Because we had 2 tweets, and it's like, this is on their own. They're not horrific. They're not the massive stumbles that he did before. But whenever you add these things up and they stack on top of one another, these are straws, and the camel is crying. The camel is tapping out, and that back is about to snap, excellent. Dude. So here we have the first of this week's servings from Randy Pitchford. So we have this. It was Borderlands 3 was on sale for 95% off on Steam. It was like $3 or whatever.
This was literally the tweet I was hoping you didn't see.
Yeah, so
the one, because I even saw it and was like, oh God.
So Randy retweets from the Borderlands account, says, hey, Borderlands 3, it's 95% off. Go get it on Steam now. Randy Pitchford retweets this, and unfortunately added his own context to it, added his own spice on top of that tweet. And he said,
and it would have all been fine without the last sentence.
Yeah, Randy says, sales like this and Borderlands 3 showing up on console subscription programs, because it also showed up on Game Pass. Sales like Borderlands 3 showing up on console subscription programs took over 5 years from the game's launch to happen. Take advantage when it's here. And to set expectations, it will be even longer before this kind of things happens in the next cycle with Borderlands 4. So whenever we talked about the possibility of Borderlands being $80 and what's going to happen and what are they going to do, one of the biggest things that we heard from our commenters was, I'm going to wait for it to go on sale. If it's $80, I'm going to wait for it to go on sale. Even if it's not $80, I didn't much care for Borderlands 3, so I'm going to wait for it to go on sale. This was one of the biggest things that we heard was, I'm a fan, but I'm going to wait for it to go on sale. And here's Randy saying, it ain't going to go on sale. What are you doing? So it seems like he's trying to I guess what in Randy's head, and God forbid if I should claim to understand what is going on in Randy's head. Randy, I'd love to come talk to us, and we'll ask. But I just
that
don't.
Would be a fun episode.
I want to stress this. I love you, Randy. Why do you do this? But the only thing I can fathom is that in Randy's head, he's like, well, if we let them know that there's not going to be any sales, maybe they won't wait for the sales and they'll just get it when it launches. He's wanting to get a big sale, or a big sales number for the launch. And this, if that's what's going on, bro, this is not the way to do it. This is not how you do it.
I'm starting to feel like that the only way he's allowed to do tweets is when he's not in the presence of his PR person, which is probably when he's on the shitter. So I'm guessing all these tweets are like mid-grunt tweets where he's like, "Oh my God, no, this is never going on sale."
What
So
what we need for Randy is if somebody just
put the phone down.
take his phone, and then if we could create an app that looked exactly like Twitter, but all it was
It's not going to anybody.
But whenever he typed it out, either it went to nobody or it sent a text message to a PR person, and then that person could like redo it and then send it, and now it comes up, all Chat GPT'd to be, more professional.
I was going to say they could run an algorithm that just produced AI responses from fake people. Going, yeah, Randy, this is awesome. We're so happy it's not going on sale ever.
Because then he went on again, and this one was weird. It was weirdly worded, but so this was the second one that he dropped here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Oh,
that's the first one again.
There we go. So Randy Pitchford launched his own little poll, and he said, "Suits thinking about exclusives between EGS, Epic Game Store, and Steam. Would you pre-order Borderlands 4 on your favorite platform if you knew that would influence exclusivity decisions?" Before we get into the responses here, there's a few things. This whole thing about him saying, "Hey, Suits are thinking about exclusives between Epic Game Store and Steam." Randy, you're a Suit. Suits is you. You are a Suit. Yeah. So
you can have 80s Bon Jovi hair all you want to. You're still a Suit.
You're still the guy, Randy. You're still you are one of these Suits. So, you may not have final decision, but you've got influence on this. So we've got that deal there. And then it's not again, I'm sure Randy's heart is in the right place, but it's his thumbs that are the problem, regardless of where his heart is. And so would you pre-order Borderlands 4 on your favorite platforms if you knew that it would influence exclusivity decisions? Now, I'll get into exactly what he's saying here, because the options were odd. So again, let me read this tweet, and then we'll read through the options. Suits thinking about exclusives between Epic Game Store and Steam. Would you pre-order Borderlands 4 on your favorite platform if you knew that it would influence exclusivity decisions? And then the options are yes, Steam, yes, Epic, no, Steam, no, Epic. This doesn't exactly make a lot of sense when you look at it, and you got to read it a few times. What is he even talking about? So here's the deal. Basically, first of all, just to get it out of the way, there's no exclusivity for Borderlands 4. Don't worry about that. That is not happening. Yeah. Fear not. It is already available for pre-order everywhere. It's available for pre-order on Steam. It's available for pre-order on Epic Game Store. There's no exclusivity. Borderlands 3 was an exclusive to Epic Game Store for, I don't remember what the time frame was, but for as at least 12 months or something like that. It was exclusive to Epic. Now, when he says yes, Steam, yes, Epic, no Steam, no Epic, here's the thing, and it's because of this really important word here, and that's pre-order. So whereas yes, Steam and no Steam, it's yes, I would pre-order it from Steam. Steam is my preferred platform. And then no, I would not pre-order it from Steam, but Steam is my preferred platform. And I would likely buy it later. I'm not going to pre-order it, but whenever it launches, Steam's where I would buy it. Now, it was, as you would assume, overwhelmingly Steam. 91% of people that voted in this,
rightly,
almost 10,000 people, more people than Microsoft laid off this week, voted for Steam. Said Steam. It's on Steam, and everybody's like, at this point, the Epic stuff, we're talking about. This could be within a margin of error. The people that voted for Steam or for Epic, Epic is a margin of error at this point. So it's one of those things where it's like, why even bother with this? You know that Steam is the engine. It's like trying to, I don't know, find a distributor and being like, okay, well, do we want to go with Amazon or do we want to distribute through DHL? Amazon. You want to distribute through Amazon. What is wrong with you? Right? So this whole thing, I don't know. And then it comes back to, okay, so we're still playing around with exclusivity because obviously that always goes over so well on platforms. And now or on consoles. And now you're talking about it on game stores. So, and whenever it's anything other than Steam, after all of the, I don't know, all the flack they had to catch whenever Borderlands 3 was on the Epic Game Store, and they're actually going to consider to do that now, they would still consider doing it. I don't know. And what world did they think that there was going to be any number of people, potentially enough people to say more people than Steam would say Epic? I don't know. I don't know what you think whenever you put something out like this. So basically, like I said, on their own, not awful, but in totality, it looks like he is trying every trick in the book to try to make people pre-order the game or just buy the game as quickly as possible. The first tweet, it comes off like you are telling people there will be no sales coming, so just go ahead and get it. That's the way it...
Yeah, but we're talking about a game that's coming out in, 2 months?
Yeah. And then here, it feels like he's saying, hey, you should probably pre-order. Because that's going to make... It sounds like a threat because obviously there was no world where Epic was going to get more votes than Steam. No world. That's insane. That's ridiculous. So that's what makes it feel like a threat because Steam is the market leader. There's no competition. So the fact that you're like, hey, your pre-orders are going to impact future exclusivity deals. Here's your two options: Steam and Epic. Would you pre-order if that would actually influence people? It feels like a threat. It feels like you are threatening to be exclusive to Epic again if people don't pre-order your game.
I'll tell you what, too. I got to tell you, if I'm Epic, I'd basically just file a defamation suit. Because, man, seriously. And even Epic knows that Steam would get the lion's share of these percentages because of the way Steam is set up. But there was no need to put the Epic information on here at all. There was no point. Just run the Steam numbers and you're good to go. Minus whatever the Epic votes were. It was like 700 people out of that 10,000. So just subtract those and call it a day.
So yeah, again, you don't even have to pay me. Like I said, 15-minute drive. I'll sit in the restaurant. Just give me an order of the braised beef rib, and I'll be happy. I'll just do that. I'll have a beer and I'll push the button. I'll filter all your tweets, and we don't have to worry about this. Just stop. For the love of God, Randy, stop. I don't know what else to say. Stop tweeting. Go on Netflix. Find a new show. I don't know. Binge watch The Walking Dead. Anything. Just stop talking about Borderlands 4. It's not working.
Actually, I think the show he would pick would be Into the Borderlands.
Oh, God. Yeah. He might be shocked to find.
That's what it was called, right? Or was it In the Badlands or something like that?
I think there's a lot of them. It's Netflix. You can find anything that tickles your fancy.
That has Nick Frost or whatever in it, I think.
Oh, and yeah, this was the other thing that I wanted to, after all this harping onto this, I say to Randy, stop doing this. And it's because of this. You do not know the harm that you could potentially be doing to your game. That's the thing here. We have example after example, recent examples of these things where there is a variable. So we have people, very well-paid people in very expensive suits, and their entire job is to factor in different things and say, okay, we think that this is the maximum amount of product that you can sell, and we think this is the minimum amount that it could sell potentially. You're looking here, and we want to do everything we can to get it over here, but this is your floor. And they come to these with a series of equations and things like that. They can factor in all sorts of stuff. They can factor in how long a console's been out, established player bases, performance of previous games, the cost of the game that you're launching. So many of these variables that
buy-in for new players.
All these things that are concrete and known. They can use these, and they can come up with these projections of what you'll be doing, how well your product will sell, or whatever it is. But when you introduce something that they cannot control, all of that goes out the windows. Snow White, the live action Snow White that Disney did. Disney could not have predicted Rachel Zegler and her social media activity, her performance in interviews, and it absolutely tanked the movie. The movie had its own problems on its own, but before it even released, she had tanked that movie.
Her social media post-release behavior was, my God, I don't even know what to call it. It was deplorable is what it was, but
what was the Star Wars? It was Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
Sense of pride and accomplishment. How did that work out for Battlefront 2? Whenever the EA had this very highly publicized, this executive in that trial or whatever they were doing, and the line came out of, it give players a sense of pride and accomplishment with these gotcha games, and that hit Battlefront like crazy as it went along with its loot boxes, things like that. It doesn't. And then we even more recently in video games, we also have Nintendo and the Switch 2. So game key cards. There is a creator that I really like called Beat 'em Ups, and he does a lot of Nintendo-centric content. Great creator, and he has a recent video where he talks about game key cards, which is this new thing that they're doing for Nintendo Switch, where you get a physical key, or you get a physical thing. It looks like a game cartridge, but it's not. It doesn't have anything on it other than a license. You put it in your Switch, and it's just a license to play what you digitally downloaded and use that. So it's a physical key card. So you have a digital copy of the game, but you have to have a physical totem to access it. And people hate these things. Who would have guessed, right? But we have a lot of third-party developers, third-party games. So we've got Cyberpunk on there and all these other games, and multiple of these companies are saying that their sales for their games that they have put on the Switch 2 are underperforming their lowest expectations. Their bottom floor projections, they are still underperforming. And Beat 'em Ups makes the argument, and I think he's right, that the thing here that's tipping the scales are these game key cards. That's the one thing that these people were not able to account for because it's never been done before. This game key card. They were able to account for all these other things, the cost of the system, the month in which it released, all the established player base, all these things, but they couldn't have anticipated the hate and loathing that these game key cards would generate. And now we have underperforming games. So that's it. That is my plea, Randy. It may not seem like much whenever you do this, but stacked one on top of the other, and even I am one of these people that is going to read. You will get no more grace from anyone when they read your tweets than I would, Randy. I like your games. I like you. I enjoy this stuff. I am going so far out of my way to read these things with grace and give you the benefit of the doubt. And even I read these like threats. It's not good. It's not a good look. So yes, quit. Your game right now is probably going to do great. You're probably going to sell great numbers. And from what I've seen, you're probably going to get good word of mouth. So just stop. Let your fans do the talking. Just put out a great game. Let your fans talk about it. You don't talk about it. That's my request. Randy, please put down the phone, uninstall Twitter, please. You can get it back in October. You can re-download it in October, but for right now, stop. Get a hobby, watch something on Netflix. We've got some recommendations that we can throw out. Waterfront's great. Jay recommended it last week. I've binged it. It's phenomenal. Watch Waterfront. Just stop. Just get off Twitter. There you go. That's it. That's
And
what I
if
got.
anybody has any Tylenol and can forward it to this guy, let's do that. Because holy shit, where's the Tylenol? But he's right, man. Yeah, Randy.
I rest my case.
You do, sir. It's rested. Man, if you don't have any problems, I'd like to move into some.
I have problems. I have problems.
Movie. Well, we all do, but I've got my own. We can do that on a different episode. Hyper focus our problems.
Yeah.
But excellent category. Move into some movie and possibly TV stuff, but I want to start out with because this is a crossover between gaming and movies. Well, actually, a couple of these categories will, but Keith David, who played Captain, Admiral, possibly Counselor, depending on how your
choices
in Mass Effect. Maybe ghetto man, whore, prostitute. I don't know if that was a possibility, but if it was, I'm sure somebody found it. But Keith David, at
the
69
Arbiter
years old,
in Halo,
earned his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame today with Molly Ringwald. So congratulations to both of them, but definitely to Keith David. That dude, if not his acting, his voice has been lent to so many
absolutely things. Iconic voice.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of those crazy ones, much like Lance Reddick was when we lost him, the guy from Destiny, who was in one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Fringe. I'm so happy for him and his family that he got his star.
Point of order.
Go for it.
You mentioned it. I can't just let it. I can't just let it go without wondering, what was Molly Ringwald there for?
Oh, they announced
was Keith David in 16 Candles and I missed him? Like, what happened?
No, they announced all the people that were getting stars.
Oh, I thought it was like Molly Ringwald was like standing behind him with like thumbs up as he like got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Like, why is she there?
Clickbait face. Yeah, so
right?
Molly Ringwald also got one, but so happy for Captain Anderson. I thought it was a good career move letting Shepard take over, and now he's going to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
And hopefully Mass Effect 5 is good.
On Saturn News, today we lost two actors that at least meant something to me in my life, but Michael Madsen, the bigger of the two, obviously, dead at 67 years old, was in Kill Bill, was in Reservoir Dogs, was in a movie that was way before its time that I wish was done now, which was the original Species, which I thought was excellent. Had a great cast, by the way. And then he's also
had a lot of great
Grand
assets.
Theft Auto in Vice City and a couple other games. And he was in that, it didn't get great reviews, that Rocky City or whatever that had like Chuck Norris and everybody in it. But he died today. So, sad there.
And ironically enough, this is obviously not too long after we lost Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
And Val Kilmer was actually supposed to attend a screening for his good friend, and it was Michael. And so it was during that he was supposed to be on the red carpet, and they were calling, they're like, where's Val? Like, where's Val at? And that was one of the things that led to people trying to find out what was going on. And now the other has passed.
Yeah. And it's and it's tough. And this guy's not going to get as much props as Madsen, but I'm actually on a group of people that follows all the original actors from the original Star Wars trilogy. And he was 87 years old. So he was blessed with a long life, as he was in the original trilogy. But Kenneth Cawley, who played Admiral Piet of the Empire, was the only Imperial Admiral to make it through all three, episode 4, 5, and 6. Although he did meet his end in 6 when the one Star Destroyer went into the other one.
I believe we got to see his entire career as an admiral on screen. We got to see him from promotion to retirement.
I hate to go into full nerdery, but he was serving under Admiral Ozzel, who made the mistake of exiting hyperspace too early and then decided he wanted to apologize to Vader, which didn't go so well. And Vader came over the screen and says, "Captain Piet, you're in charge now, Admiral Piet." So that's when he took over. But anyway, he died today at 87. And, we've reached a time where I think we're going to lose a lot of those guys as we get, and we've lost a lot of the main actors, obviously, but that's a sad day for the Star Wars people. But on a brighter note, to pick up the mood, the F1 movie, which we reviewed both in non-spoiler and spoiler format last week,
and I
has
believe
now
the
become
longest video we have released to date.
Roger, yeah, which we didn't intend it to be, which was weird. But Brad Pitt, it's now Brad Pitt's highest grossing movie of all time for him, which
Sounds
like
crazy.
a bold statement considering, he was in Fight Club and he was in What's in the Box.
Mr. and
He
Mrs.
was in-
Smith.
I call it, 7, whatever. But he was in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Excellent movie. Been in the Bullet Train. Freaking
Which that one
excellent.
did not get the flowers it deserved. I will say that one did not get the flowers it deserved.
It didn't, and I'm actually going to end up bringing up Bullet Train again when I talk about another movie in a little bit. But congratulations to Brad Pitt on the movie. I know, buddy. Listen, I need you to ignore some of the polarizing reviews because you had to know you were going to get hit in the face with the purists. Every review I've read has either been top notch or bottom of the barrel. Nothing in between. And to be fair, I think they expected that. They knew that was the route that it was going to go. But obviously, the movie is Apple TV's highest grossing movie of all time as well. Highest grossing production of all time.
Has Apple TV even previously released something in theaters before it went to their platform?
I thought they did. I'd have to look that up. But I thought they had a couple movies out there. But anyway.
Well, and in regards to F1, one of the things that we confidently said whenever we watched it is like, clearly this was intended as a one, and it probably was intended as a one-off. It was a very complete story. We had a beginning, we had a middle, and we had an end. And not only did we have a beginning, middle, we had a very logical ending. And it's like, hey, how else was this going to end? Brad Pitt's character is up there, like I believe he's 57 in the movie, is the character's age. How else is this going to end? And we got news. A sequel is in development because it made money. So this, I don't, it's sometimes it's okay for a movie to come out, do well, and go home. Take its ball and go home. It did its job. Go enjoy it. We don't always have to have sequels when a movie does well. Now, granted, like we said, there is a lot of stories that were hinted at in the movie that didn't get fleshed out that were very interesting, and I was curious to know more. I wanted to know more. So I'm not gonna act like I'm upset by the fact that they're doing a sequel or that I won't watch the sequel. I love the first movie. I'm gonna watch the sequel, but it just doesn't feel like it needed one. But I am curious to see where they go with it, who we get to see again, and what stories we get to flesh out more, learn more about. Maybe we'll get the Le Mans thing, get some stuff there. I don't know, but we'll see. But sequel is incoming.
Yeah, which I think is crazy. And, oddly enough, F1 is a sport where your lifespan as a racer is very short. Unless you're like one of the weirdos that seem to pull the Keanu Reeves of not aging, which is Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, that are both in their 40s now and still racing.
Then as long as you don't look at that painting that you've got hidden somewhere, you can just
straight up Dorian Gray stuff here. But Damson Idris, if let's assume a 3 to 4 year production cycle on the next movie, he would potentially be a vet at that point. So it'd be cool to see him in the driver number 1 role. And I know you haven't gotten this sport to realize that that's how every team kind of does that. The driver number 1 role, and he's got to deal with a teenage rookie.
I will say, if we get a sequel and we do not get a return of all of the principal characters,
yes,
it's not going to have the same. They're going to be missing an opportunity.
Except for Vesemir. I think Brad Pitt should take Vesemir's role.
Yeah, well, like we need both drivers. We need Joshua Pierce again. We need Ruben again. We need the Irish lady. Her name escapes me. We need her back.
Condon.
Yeah, we need all the principal characters back. You know, I want to know more about all of them and the pit crew girl,
Jody. Yes.
Jody. Yes.
Yeah, I think that'll be. And I didn't know it was going to be announced for a sequel, but I think that's pretty funny. Other movie news. Part of it you brought up, and part of it I just saw today. But the Running Man trailer with Glenn Powell, William H. Macy, Thanos, and Michael Cera of Superbad fame. Saw that trailer today. Obviously based on not only the Stephen King novel, but the original movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 80s. Do you remember who the game show host was on the one in the 80s?
I am going to tell you something right now, Jay. I'm going to be very honest with you.
You did not see the original Running Man.
I have never seen the original Running Man movie.
Well, if I had to guess, I'd say you were probably 2 when it came out.
So you're saying you won't hold it against me?
I'm not holding it against you, no.
When did it release?
I want to say like 82 or 83. It's pretty
How
old.
old do you think I am? That's before my time, sir.
It might have been 86 or 87 as well. 80s are starting to get a little with me. So anyway, I just kind of pick a year and
Just
run.
To put it out there, I would not have been around at that time. So.
Okay, so you were negative. You were a brown stain on the mattress. But anyway, Richard Dawson, who was the original host of Family Feud, played the prick megalomaniac game show host of Running Man. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was...
Is this the guy that kissed everybody on Family Feud?
No, that was Pat Conn.
Okay.
That was the next guy. Everybody missed... Yeah, Richard Dawson...
Boy, he would not have been able to be around in this era.
Richard Dawson's version of saying "survey said" was like iconic. Like everybody was using it in everyday life because we didn't have memes back then. We just had actual people saying shit. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know this guy. I've seen him in other shows and movies that's playing that guy. But Glenn Powell looks great in the role. Josh Brolin looks good as the greasy agent. Michael Cera looks like he's playing a kind of a psychotic maniac, and I don't know what Macy's playing. I just got a
chinless psychotic maniac. Quick
glimpse of him. So anyway, really excited about it. But the other movie I wanted to bring up that the trailer, dude, I was blown away, and it's very rare that I get blown away in a trailer.
I'm happy to say that in our 21 episodes, I don't remember which episode it was.
It wasn't.
This is one that we had
3 or 4.
This is one that we had talked about that was going to be coming out because it was based on a book that I absolutely loved.
So the funny thing was I had forgotten that while I was watching this trailer. But as I'm watching it, I'm getting absolute vibes of the Sam Rockwell Moon movie or whatever it was called.
How many times have we talked about the Moon movie in the last 3 weeks, you and I?
I don't know, but it's been a lot. It's been an unnecessary amount.
If you haven't seen Moon, watch Moon.
Yes. But anyway, so this movie has Ryan Gosling, who has literally grown on. I used to not be able to stand Ryan Gosling. And now he has grown on to me to where he's one of my favorite actors. But he's in this movie where he is a 6th grade science teacher who also happens to have a degree in, was it biochemistry or something like that or whatever? This was a book first, by the way, folks, before it was a movie.
And I highly recommend you go and read it. It's a phenomenal read.
And apparently something is going on with all the planets where they're getting infected with something that's going to destroy them all. But only one planet in our immediate vicinity within 12 light years, Ceti Tau, or Tau Ceti, sorry, has avoided getting infected with this, whatever it is. And they go to the 6th grade teacher because apparently he's the only one. And this is, I'm getting all this from the trailer. I have not read the book. He's the only one that can solve this problem. And he obviously does not want to leave planet Earth.
Yeah.
He is trying everything in his, he literally says in the trailer, I put the not in astronaut. Do not, I belong in the classroom. So go ahead. You've obviously read it.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but he was not always a science teacher. He was previously a scientist.
Okay.
and had theories and things like that, and was
Which is
laughed,
probably what got him
essentially laughed out of the science world, and some
But
other
no.
things which you can learn. But so he was not always simply a teacher.
And I feel bad because I just announced this movie and who was in it and kind of what it's about. The name of it is Project Hail Mary. And there was a scene in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything, because the lady that's trying to recruit him for this mission is not from America. And she's like, it's as you Americans would call a long shot. And Ryan Gosling looks up over his own eyebrows and is like, yeah, it's a Hail Mary. So it's called Project Hail Mary. It looks like it's going to be excellent and funny and dramatic and serious and all kinds of things. So a lot of emotions just in a 3-minute trailer, but I'm really excited about that.
Yes, I have been super stoked on this for, I think it's been about 2 years that Ryan Gosling has been attached to this, and I heard that they were going to be making it. I am so excited for it. The book is written by Andy Weir, and if that name sounds familiar to anybody out there, it's because he also wrote The Martian, and then they also made a screenplay of The Martian, which was with Matt Damon, the one where he got stuck on Mars, and they had to bring him home.
It's important to note that Matt Damon had to science the shit out of that to get home.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about Andy Weir is I don't know how this guy researches this stuff, but he does these like very scientifically sound kind of theorizations of these scenarios. And much like The Martian required a lot of actual science to kind of explain how he survived, this also covers a lot of actual science to not only explain what they are doing, how they are going as far as they are, what actually is this thing that is threatening our home planet and all of this. But and again, I will say this was something that whenever I read the book, I was not aware of, and so it was a nice surprise to me. But this is in the trailer, so this, I will not consider this a spoiler, and that is that you meet alien life, that he meets alien life. And I will say that the way that they approach this in the book, and I hope that they do it the same in the I'm sure they will do the same in the movie. It feels so real and well explained. And people have always said that, what was the one with is it not Visitors, where we have the aliens that come on and they're just in this floating ship, and they have Arrival. Thank you. Yeah, they've said that Arrival is sort of the best kind of hypothetical, how would it really happen? And it's kind of like, that's kind of how, because that's the way that we would break down the language and how we would try to establish something. And so the way that these two species that have, I mean, nothing in common, from biology to language to technology, nothing in common, and how they figure out what the other is doing, saying, thinking. It's brilliantly written. I'm sure they will do a great job, because I believe Ryan Gosling has an executive producer role in this film as well.
He does.
Yeah, so he
always look for that stuff at the end of the trailer.
He was like he was the one that, like, he found the story and he wanted to make this happen. So I'm sure they'll do a great job, but in the book, it's phenomenal. I cannot recommend highly enough. Read the book. One
of the best lines in the trailer too is towards the end of it. He's like, "So I met an alien. He's beside me. He's not inside me," which I was worried about, and obviously referencing Alien, I'm sure. So that was cool. But Andy Weir he reminds me a lot of how Tom Clancy was back in the day, when Tom Clancy was writing what I call high espionage novels. And I don't know if you've read any of Tom's old books, but obviously he passed away. It's probably been a couple decades. But Red Storm Rising was so accurate in his ability to portray an all-world war in a modern setting, that he actually got called before the Senate Intelligence Committee on where he got his information. He's like, all of it was public knowledge, or I wrote it because it's what I would have done. And I thought that was cool. And Andy Weir's one of those guys I could see getting having to do that because, dude, his stuff is sort of like James S.A. Corey with The Expanse. It's so tight on the subject matter.
And I don't know, he's just got he's a brilliant writer. I'm telling you, if you pick up Project Hail Mary and you start reading it, I dare you to try to do the thing where you just get to the chapter and you're like, okay, I think that's it for the night. You will. It's one of those things that you get to the end. You're like, no, I gotta one more chapter. It's fine. I can do that.
That's how I was with The Martian, dude. I felt like I was there in that story, and I was like, dude, how did his potatoes are ruined. What's he gonna do? Kind of thing. And same thing with Tom, and same thing with Clive Kessler and Dan Brown.
Yeah, I hope some people might be annoyed, but I hope it's a long movie. I hope the movie's long. I hope it's almost 3 hours. I want him to have as much time to tell the story as possible. I would have loved it if this was on Amazon or Apple TV or something like that as a series, because it's so in depth and detailed. I don't know. I hope that since it's going to be a movie, I hope it's long, and I hope that they spend most of the time in space. I hope that I don't want to tell the structure of the book, because if they tell the movie,
it starts in space and just does flashbacks to tell how they got there.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. That's the way it is. It's basically it's the best use of a mechanic that I love when they do in movies and games, and that is that you learn right along with the protagonist. When he wakes up, he has no idea who he is, where he is, or why he's there. Yeah. And so as he learns who he is, where he is, why he's there, you are learning as well. So you're always on equal footing with the main character. He never knows more than you know. You always know exactly as much as he knows. That's cool. It's a great mechanic that I love it when it's done well. Knights of the Old Republic, whenever the way they play that with the amnesia thing, where you are on equal footing with the character that you are playing.
Memento.
It's a phenomenal tool when it's used well to keep you engaged, and you don't ever feel like you're being left behind or anything like that, because you are keeping pace. So it's a phenomenal tactic that they use, and I hope that they employ it the same way in the movie as they do in the book. That way there's the setup phase as he's remembering what got him there, and then there's the mission and the alien and all of this stuff and how this all plays together. It should be brilliant. And like you said, I agree with you. I think Ryan Gosling, I think he's a phenomenal actor. I think he's made brilliant choices, especially in the last 6 to 8 years on the roles that he has taken to be taken seriously. From whenever he first kind of hit the scene
with Remember the Titans and stuff,
he was kind of the pretty boy and stuff like that. And now he's now he's a highly respected, highly respected actor. Does great roles, phenomenal. And also now that this is done, maybe we can finally get that Gray Man sequel.
I tell you, love that movie. But I tell you, one of his best roles was The Other Guys with Russell Crowe.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh my God. It's like a 70s Private Dick movie. You got to watch that.
Oh, okay. I definitely got to see it.
It might not. I think it's The Other Guys. I'm worried I'm stepping into Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg. I thought it was called something like that. It's the Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe movie, but very good. I felt like he really learned a lot of depth, and felt like it came from playing off of Russell Crowe. But anyway, I love Gray Man. That was excellent. So anyway, great movie.
Well, and what was the first? Oh yeah, The Running Man. So I always thought the concept was great, but I never watched the original. And I learned that they were making this remake, and that was going to be Glenn Powell. And I love Glenn Powell. I think he's a phenomenal actor as well in his own right. Super fun. And I'm glad that he's having this moment where his breakout role was Top Gun Maverick. And I mean,
even as you like him, even as a prick, he was a prick in Maverick, but Still loved him to death in it.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
man, I don't want to go too far into glazing Top Gun Maverick because we did plenty of that whenever we were talking about the F1 movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, phenomenal thing there. But he was in it, so
Twisters.
I was so excited to that he was going to be a part of it. So I'm looking forward to watching it. But I did not know, even whenever I knew that he was going to be in the remake and all this stuff, I still did not know until I watched the trailer, because I saw the trailer was out. I was like, okay. I went, I watched it. I didn't know until the trailer that The Running Man was a Stephen King book.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that you should read the book.
Well, I'll tell you this right now, I won't, because I hate Stephen King.
So here's the thing.
I've heard. Here's the thing with the Dark Tower
I hate
books.
Stephen King as well. The only two, I read the Dark Tower series because that's his Lord of the Rings.
And it sucks.
And I read The Stand because I was forced to in school. And then, yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's a trip, man.
That was the 80s.
Woo.
I mean, we got forced to read some weird ass books. Like I read Philip K. Dick, the Blade Runner and the Minority Report story in like
We
ninth
didn't get to
grade.
read anything cool like that.
Yeah. And then I read The Running Man after I saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie because my dad was like, you should read the book. And yeah, I was like 13.
Yeah, I mean, aside from, I'm not talking about him as a person, which I also think he seems to be like a pretty miserable person as well.
Yeah.
But just his writing style is what I hate. I hate his writing style. I cannot. It loses. There's a lot. It's a long thing. I just can't read his stuff. I just can't. I tried. I've heard so many people tell me about the Dark Tower books. People that I know, people that I respect, people who like the same things I do. And I'd heard it so many times. I was so confident that I would like it that I went and I bought like the first 4 books in one go.
Gunslinger is the first one.
Sat down, started reading, and I was like, I hate this. This sucks.
It's the worst one. The first book is the worst one, man. It's terrible. It reads like a microwave oven manual until you get like 2/3 of the way through it.
Well, there's also stuff that he is horrific at, and that is context. So I don't want to get in too deep into this, but one of my pet peeves, and there's a lot of them in there. One of my pet peeves with what I saw in there with his work is he will do this thing where he makes up words, which is fine. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. Make up your words, especially if it's a fantasy world that's going to have words that we don't have. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
But he makes up words, and the whole thing is usually whenever you make up a word and you put it in your story, you let people know through context somehow what that word means.
Not Stephen King.
That just gets lost in Stephen King. He just throws it in there, assumes you know what it means, and then he just goes on, and you're just left there wondering, like, is that a character's name? Did I just read a slur? Does this mean it's about to rain? What does this mean? I don't know what this word is. So there you go. I hate Stephen King.
Okay. So did you have anything in movies or TV that you would like to discuss? I have a couple more things, but I need to step away for just a second. So you've got it.
Sure. While I clear my throat, I will say that Jay had recommended in the last episode, he had recommended a Netflix show called The Waterfront. And I wanted to say that it is a phenomenal show. Actually marathoned it over the weekend. It is 8 episodes long. It takes place in the Carolinas. I believe it's North Carolina. And it's basically a backwater crime saga of this family. And I know that Jay kind of explained it a bit, but it's this wealthy family that's been a part of this town for generations. They're very well known, very feared, and kind of have a reputation. And it's kind of this fine line between they appear to be a bit of a tourist town because they are on the waterfront, appropriately so. And with the seasons, whenever it's fishing season, they'll have people come in. And in fact, this family owns a restaurant. So whenever it comes to seasonality, this restaurant will be open. They'll get a lot of tourism. So there's people that know and fear the family. And then there's people that are sort of new and trying to figure things out. But it's a phenomenal show. It's 8 episodes long. Each episode is about an hour. And yeah, highly recommend it. You'll recognize a lot of the actors that are in it. Topher Grace does a phenomenal and eerie job in his role. You don't see Topher Grace all that often. So yeah, I was happy to see it. It was a great series. It's been on the top 10 with Netflix since it launched. So I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that it'll get a season 2, and I am very happy about that. Welcome back, Jay.
Did I sell Topher Grace's role on that very well, though? That
it was he does. This is the thing where I've mentioned before, where I like it whenever it's able to be done, where you have somebody and they are not outwardly intimidating. If you took them out of the context that they're in, and you sort of played it along, it would be not be different. Did you ever watch Godless on Netflix?
Yes, with Ian McShane.
Yes. Oh, wait,
yes.
Where Jeff Daniels played the bad guy.
Oh yes. Okay. Yes. That. Yes, I did.
Okay. So it's a Western where Jeff Daniels played the bad guy. And if you haven't watched Godless, also watch Godless, guys. So it was this thing where he is always very calm, very even toned, but he is absolutely terrifying. In this, Jeff Daniels is a terrifying.
Jeff Daniels is
villain.
So versatile, dude. It's mind blowing how versatile.
And much that same way, Topher Grace is basically talking to everybody like he just ran into, somebody's grandma at the local Target, and he's helping her get the jelly off the top shelf. But it's absolutely terrifying because of the context, what you are introduced to about him. So even though he's got this mannerism and way of talking that is, very kind of pandering and overly nice, it is absolutely uncomfortable every time he's on screen. You always just kind of feel a little bit like squirming in your seat because you're like, is this where we're going to see something rough? It's a great performance that he gives, where it's like, it's funny and it's uncomfortable, and you're always kind of on the edge. It was
cringe, man.
Yeah. You're like, am I going to see something that's going to make me sick? And then if the scene goes on, and then it changes scenes, he's no longer on the screen, and nothing happened. You realize that you hadn't breathed for a little bit. You're like,
yeah,
it does a great job.
And the weird thing is, it felt like everybody catered to Topher Grace exactly the way that he wanted them to do it, except for Maria Bello, who literally was 0 Fs. And I was every interaction, I was like, oh, chick, you might not make it to the end of the first season. I mean, I was literally like, yeah.
They did a really, and you'd said it yourself, like Melissa Benoist, like she did absolutely great in that role.
Yeah.
So it's great. They've got a lot of layered stuff on this thing. The family dynamics were great. I don't know. I was a big fan of it. I watched it with my girlfriend, and we both loved it. And while we were watching, she'd be like, "Who do you think's gonna die? Is this person gonna die? Like who? Where are we going?" Like it was great though, dude. Like I mean, you had the, I don't want to go too far, but Owen,
Yeah.
And that whole thing, it was great. It was so well done. Very well written. I have to assume that they'll get a second season. It's been doing gangbusters on that.
Yeah, and like I said though, and I don't know if you got the same. I said this last week, but I don't know if you got the same feeling when you watch it. It felt like this was possibly designed to be maybe a 2-season show.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that they probably have. Well, because it doesn't feel like something that has to end in another season. I think that they've got plenty that they can run with. It was something that we were talking about it earlier today, my girlfriend and I, and it was kind of like, I think they are doing the smart play where I think they had a great lineup of a lot of great actors. I think they were confident in what they had, and so they went there. And they told the story they wanted to tell, but I think they got more ideas. Where there's some others where, and I think that this is kind of Netflix's fault because of the way they've cultivated this fear that if you like a show, It's not going to
gone.
survive. It's going to get canceled after 2 seasons, no more than 3 seasons. 3 seasons is absolutely going to die. But most of them if they get renewed, they get cut off at 2 seasons. And as a result, you get some very unsatisfactory things. You get something like Warrior Nun that you get the entire, they end the first season on a cliffhanger. Then they end the entire series up on a cliffhanger because they got canceled and you never get a resolution. Or you get something where somebody's like, okay, well, we're probably going to get 1 season, max 2 seasons. So we've got all these ideas. Let's throw them all out there and they work. And then they get renewed. Maybe they get a season 3 and they're like, we're kind of out of ideas. And then it starts to feel like Stranger Things.
Can I just throw this out there as one of the worst travesties of TV ever?
Ozark, I agree.
Ending, as far as ending. Yes, Ozark was bad. Stargate Universe, SGU, 40 episodes, 2 seasons, ends in a manner that I can only call abrupt. The cast apparently had no clue that the show was ending. An excellent premise. They actually found the ship that they all ended up on the ship that actually puts out the Stargates. What a great premise. And then it gets canceled. It was a really tough pill to swallow, I got to tell you. So, yeah.
Well, I was actually just got shown a clip of an interview of Ethan Suplee, actor Ethan Suplee.
Yeah.
And who's I think he's a phenomenal actor as well. Been in a lot of great things, and of course also turned his life around. Got super fit. Now he's a jacked beast. And he was talking about My Name Is Earl and how they thought they had been guaranteed another season. And they had all this idea, and then they got canceled. Even after being renewed, they then just got abruptly canceled. And
I never knew that.
So they had all this idea for the ending season, and I thought, man, that would have been a phenomenal thing. And their idea for the last season was basically that as Earl went on, like at some point during that season, Earl would run into somebody that also had a list, and they were sort of doing their own thing and making right some of the wrongs that they had done. And then through this, he was like, oh yeah, I got this idea from this person. And so I started doing it. And then so he chased down that person. And basically what it was going to come down to, the way that the whole series was going to have ended was that chasing down all this stuff about these people trying to make amends for what they did. And it was going to tie back to all the people that he had gone back to and made things right with. And then they started doing the same thing. And then the people that they did that to then did the same thing. And so basically he had started this incredible movement of all of these people going back and trying to right their wrongs and make good on mistakes that they had made and making the world a better place. And it was all to have started with Earl.
Wow, and I love that show. It wasn't just Ethan, but I mean, I'm a huge Jason Lee fan. Yeah. I've liked him ever since Mallrats. Sorry. Yeah, Mallrats is a great movie. It's one of my favorites of all time. But yeah, it stuck seeing a show like that. And what was the original show we were talking about?
Well, I was talking about Waterfront whenever you had to dip out. But so I don't know if there's a lot more ground that we can cover there, but it was great. I loved it. I highly recommend it. Just as Jay recommended it last week, I can now co-sign that recommendation. And
I love it when a review goes the way I want it to, like you actually enjoy the show. I hate it when I give somebody because I think I've got the pulse of kind of where they are, and don't you hate that? I mean, have you ever done it where you either a game or a movie or a TV show and they come back and they're like, dude.
Yeah. And then you're just like, they're never going to trust me again.
Yeah. That's exactly how you feel.
Yeah, I guess I just have to remove them from my contacts because they're never going to want to talk to me again.
So, dude, I know you're super excited about Predator Badlands, and so am I.
Yeah,
huge Predator fan.
I was actually talking with my son about this just the other day because he watched Killer of Killers. I told him you need to watch it, and I was like, man, I'm so excited that we're finally maybe some of these things are finally catching because they had all these misfires before. And I'm glad that we're finally gaining some traction.
So they interviewed the director, Trachtenberg.
Love Dan Trachtenberg.
And he's like, he reminds me of an Arnold character, but it's not Dutch. Talking about the new Yautja, the new Predator from Badlands. He reminds me of Conan the Barbarian, which for me is promising because Conan is in my top 5 movies of all time. The original, not the Destroyer. And so I'm kind of excited, but it also tells me that this Predator is going to be kind of brutal, as opposed to surgical, which I'm okay with, and that's fine.
I believe the thing is that he is also a young Predator.
Yeah.
So he is inexperienced. He's going through his rite of passage. So it would make sense that he's more brute force than precision.
Well, I mean, to me, it's no different than when we talk about James Bond before he receives 00 status. He as the Dame Judi Dench said in Casino Royale, I'm worried this is too difficult for a blunt instrument, and we need you to take, passion out of the equation, Bond, and be who you need to be, which he later does, of course. And I think this Predator is going to show that as well, show that, okay, well, I could do it this way or I could do it that way. So
he'll be a creature of results more than skill.
Correct. And, somebody that's adapts to not only his environment, but the way the environment impacts upon him. So that to me, that's a really cool concept as well. So what's the release date on this? Do you know?
I believe it is November because my son looked that up just yesterday. I believe it was November that's coming out. So not too long. It's going to be this year, but we do still have a few months left. But I am super excited that Dan Trachtenberg has it. I've been a fan of Dan Trachtenberg. This is the thing. It does infuriate me that we could have had Dan Trachtenberg directing the Uncharted movie. He was the original person signed on. Then creative differences, he left the project. We could have had because he's a gamer. He started off on a gaming podcast called The Totally Rad Show. He is one of us. Yeah, he is one of us. He's a nerd. He genuinely loves this stuff. So I'm so happy with his success that he's had, and to see him. It's very clear that he is the driving force behind this Predator now, because he did Prey. Prey was an absolute success. He did a phenomenal job with Prey.
It was very good.
He did Killers now, and now he's doing Badlands. So make this guy your Jon Favreau, right? Make this the guy that you entrust this franchise to, and let him drive it forward. Because after the first 2 movies, back in the day, they've tried so many times. They've tried The Predator. They've tried Predators. They've tried so many things to try to kickstart it back, and they just didn't take. Even though I thought they were good, there were some of those that I thought were great, like the ones with Adrian Brody, but they didn't take off. Now they feel like they're gaining real traction. They feel like they're really taking off, and I really hope that this turns into a full franchise and a universe that we get to enjoy. And I hope that he's the mastermind behind it all, because I love what he's doing. I love his unique take on it, and I love that we're seeing more of the Predator side of it. So this is, again, Predator Badlands. The concept of it is that for the first time, we're going to be rooting for the Predator. We are looking at the world through his eyes. Huh?
I'm always rooting for the Predator.
Right. But this now the Predator will actually be the protagonist.
Yeah.
I believe he's going to be hunted by other predators along with some, native life. It seems like that big, huge thing, whatever it is that bursts out of the woods in the trailer. But yeah, we got to see a little bit of and of course, obviously there's novels, comics that go into crazy detail about the culture of the Yautja. How do you pronounce it?
It's actually from what I heard from the guy that actually wrote the book, it's Yautja.
Yautja? Okay. Yeah. It's spelled weird. Look up how it's spelled and you'll understand why I'm having trouble.
It's really weird.
But so there's plenty of that there, but the Killer of Killers, Predator Killer of Killers is the first real look that we've kind of gotten at their culture. Not to say more than that but now here, whenever we get to Badlands, I think we're going to see even more of their culture, their rites of passage, things like that. So I'm very excited to get to see more of the Predator instead of him just being this monster that always gets killed at the end of the movie, and you never really get to learn that much about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, and we're going to go bizarre at this point because to me, this is extremely bizarre. They, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. They are doing a remake, not a reboot. They are doing a remake of Street Fighter, the movie.
Yeah.
And the only, to me, and I'm anxious to hear your entire 2 + 2 cents on this one, but the only interesting thing to me is that to replace the rest in peace Raul Julia, they picked up David Dastmalchian to play M. Bison. And if you're not familiar with David's work, he played the Polka Dot Man in James Gunn's Justice League, and he played the Mentat Peter DeVries in Dune.
Yeah, if you've ever watched a movie and there was a guy there that you're like, this guy
Weirdo.
feels like he's on a list somewhere. That was him.
Yeah, he was also in Ant-Man. He was the third guy as a part of the security company in Ant-Man. So anyway, that guy is playing M. Bison.
Which is the most bizarre. I don't, because M. Bison's this big, ripped, square-jawed.
Yeah.
I don't look at him and see Bison.
But we also have, speaking of ripped and sinewy, we have Jason Momoa, Roman Reigns, 50 Cent, who's like, I think older than me. They've also been tagged onto the cast.
I doth protest there, sir. Hold on, I've got to
Wait,
give
you
that
think I'm older than 50 Cent?
Yes. Yes.
Good luck.
You are.
How old is he?
49.
He's lying about his effing age. He's lying about his age. He's like 54.
Okay, man. Okay, we'll let you have that one.
So, anyway. But yeah, there's a Street Fighter remake. It's for real. I don't know who's playing what.
So
I will go see it just for the shock and awe factor.
I looked up. I've seen some of it. So at any time, like I will have my, I've got a Google phone, so I have it where I just swipe over and I have my whole sort of like curated list of news stories, and it knows what I like, and so it knows I'm into video games and movies and stuff like that, obviously. And so, but sometimes the stuff that it gives you is clickbait garbage, and it just doesn't. It's not worth it. You click on it, you're like, ugh, why did I click on that? It's this whole thing. There'll be like websites that will say like, oh, this new DLC for this game just released. You're like, I didn't know about any DLC. You click on it and you got clickbait. It's talking about some mod or something like that. So sometimes you get got. And I would swipe over and I would see these updates, and it's like Roman Reigns cast in Street Fighter remake. I'm like, this can't be. So I'll look to see if it's from a reputable thing or it's just clickbait, and it's like the Hollywood Reporter, and it's legit. And also from legit sources, not only is Roman Reigns in it, Cody Rhodes is currently in talks to play Guile, according to rumors, which I will say is dead on. The guy already bleaches his hair. He's the American Nightmare, the son of the American Dream. This dude would be perfect for Guile, as it turns out. So, but it is a bizarre hodgepodge list of people that are getting cast in it. I don't even remember I'll have to pull some of these up. It's crazy, this list that they're applying. It sounds like the setup for a joke, this particular list, but it's happening. It's happening. It's coming. Here we go. So Jason Momoa is Blanca. So he will be playing Blanca. We have a couple of pretty boys. We got a pretty boy playing Ken. We got some dude playing Ryu that looks much older. Orville Peck, who is a masked gay country singer, is his current occupation. He's playing Vega. We have
age, dude.
Akuma. So that is who Roman Reigns will be playing. Roman Reigns will be playing Akuma. Oh, this was the other one that tripped me out, where I was like, who in the world? So, and I'll get to him in just a second. So 50 Cent is playing Balrog. And then this was the other casting that I was like, are you kidding me? and that is Andrew Schultz. Andrew Schultz is cast in this movie. Stand-up comedian Andrew Schultz is cast in the Street Fighter movie. I do not know his role. It is not listed currently right now on IMDb, but yeah, it's the most eclectic. This is one of those things that is either going to go down as a historical failure that everybody could have seen coming, or it is going to be legendary.
I feel like the people in this movie, it's because they grew up playing the game and they were like, I want to be in it. I want to be in it. Because I feel like the people that were in the original probably wish they were never in that movie. Other than Raul Julia, who passed away. But definitely Jean-Claude Van Damme. And
it's definitely not on his highlight reel of his career, for sure.
Although Van Damme might actually be happy he was in that movie, because that's where he met his wife. So he might actually be blessed that he was in that movie. But
give it another couple
Na
years.
Wen and
wait till he
some
makes
of
money again.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I hope that it is not the train wreck that the first one was. We have obviously had a long, storied, troubled history of movies based on video game franchises. And there are far more misses than there are hits. But I hope that this one is being taken seriously. The fact that Jason Momoa is attached to it does give me some hope. I know that Minecraft was one where I was like, man, I don't think this is gonna be good. I can't imagine it being good. But I saw it with my son, and it turned out it was actually really fun. I enjoyed it, and like I was terrified. I was like, man, Jason Momoa might just kill his career, and it turned out to be great. Made $1 billion, so he's doing just fine. So the fact that he's in, I'm hoping that it means something good. And there was a time whenever he was attached to another movie that I was so hopeful would be good, but then once he left it, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be bad. And then it ended up being really bad, which was the Crow remake that they did, which was because I love the Crow. It's my favorite movie. Man. And so, yeah, the fact that Jason, he's kind of like my barometer. If he's on the movie, okay, looks, maybe we've got something there. Maybe they're on the right track. But if he leaves this production, I am going to be terrified of this movie. If Jason Momoa, mark my words, if Jason Momoa drops out of this project, that is red alert time. That is the sign of doom.
Yeah, I absolutely
agree. That is a canary in the coal mine.
It just feels like Momoa's been playing some kind of goofy roles lately, but he obviously knows what he's doing from an economical standpoint, so for sure. Not real worried about it. Man, that was all I had other than The Old Guard 2 released on Netflix. And I love the premise of the first one, where you had this immortal group of warriors, and they themselves didn't know why they were immortal. They just knew they were. And they've been through history from the beginning of time through the Crusades to now. And then they end up having what can only be described like in Star Wars as a vergence in the Force. And they meet another of their kind, and they kind of have to try to recruit her along. And then this second movie is going to be more about her story of her getting where she's at. But the cool thing about, before you get into your thing, because I know you probably got something on it, but is that Charlize Theron's favorite action heroine of all time is Uma Thurman. She did an interview where she talked about Uma Thurman's the gold standard of female action heroes. And I don't know if I would agree with that, but it's not my place to judge her opinion. But she loved Kill Bill 1 and 2. Obviously, she loved the fact that Uma can not only do the action part, but the acting part. And so Uma Thurman is in this second movie. So I thought that it's got to be cool for her, because she's getting to meet one of the people she looks up to. And that's, that's a cool deal. So anyway, that's where we are. I don't know if Uma Thurman's character plays the villain or if she's another one of the immortals like her. So go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, like, I don't know. Uma Thurman is in it. I'm glad that Charlize gets to meet one of her heroes, even though it was from two horrific movies. Man, Kill Bill was awful. But the so the thing
Separate
that
hyper focus.
the thing about the first one is also so that we have these immortals, but they have a rule about their immortality, and that is at some point that immortality runs out. You stop healing, and that's a thing that is played throughout the movie, and will obviously, because of the way that movie ends, will play a heavy role in this movie, and I'm looking forward to that. And of course, the first movie ended on a cliffhanger, sort of. I mean, it wrapped up what the story it was telling, but it very clearly sets up the second movie at the end of the first one with the return of someone they thought lost. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm excited. I know that the critics have all these headlines about the critics panning the movie, but here's the deal. I was telling Whitney earlier, most of the movies that I like, the critics hate. I almost see that if the critics hate that movie, I almost see it as like, okay, well, I need to put this movie on my list because we are clearly diverging. With so many of the movies I like, you'll see critics score down here and the audience score up here. So the fact that the critics don't like it means nothing to me. I am not discouraged one bit.
Oddly enough, I did my due diligence on this one, which I don't normally do on these things, but it's got a Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 28%, which is still higher than the first movie, by the way,
and I love the first one.
I did. And I think a lot of times for people, and I don't think anybody would ever admit this, except we're about to do it right now, is if the premise of the movie is something you're into, and the premise of this movie is something I'm wildly into, people that are able to live across generations and see history unfold. As a history buff, that's the ultimate dream. But anyway, to finish my ratings thing before I get back into that, the popcornometer, whatever that is,
that's the audience score.
Okay, well, it's a 44%, so it's double what the critics say, which is pretty typical, I would think. But anyway,
yeah, the fact that the critics don't, because this is the thing. So the critics, many of them are pretentious, and they think
desensitized. I think
they think very highly of themselves and their opinion. And the whole thing is they're going to give you Oscar bait. Let me ask you, the viewer, who won Best Picture the last 3 years? You don't know. I don't either. Nobody knows because nobody cares. Nobody likes those movies. Nobody in real life is going around and watching those movies being like, that's my favorite movie right now. They're not fun. They're just Oscar bait. That's it. And that's the kind of stuff that the critics get. They want to have their reputation. They want to praise Oscar bait and then poke fun at the stuff that us peons like. And I don't think, and the thing with whenever you go into video game reviews, and of course this is not always, some websites are better at others and less reputable than others.
Right.
But whenever it's done well, the objective is, okay, Death Stranding 2 is coming out. How about we get somebody that enjoyed Death Stranding 1, where this is a game that's up their alley. We're not going to have our guy that reviews NASCAR games every year give us his opinion on Death Stranding 2 because he likes racing games. He doesn't want to do this. This isn't his interest. So we're not going to have somebody that is predisposed to not like this game. We're going to have somebody this game is going to be for. Whenever the next Call of Duty drops, we're not going to have the guy that rates The Sims play the newest Call of Duty release. We're going to get the guy that likes shooters, and we're going to have him rate the Call of Duty.
Right.
But you don't have that with movie reviewers. You just have the one person, and they're going to give their opinion on everything, and they're going to watch a lot of stuff that they don't like, that doesn't align with you. And that's why I don't have critics. I have content creators on YouTube and things like that whose opinions, their likes, their preferences, whether it be movies, games, anything like that, they align with my own, and I'll listen to them. And then whenever they say something, I'll be like, okay, there's that. And then there's still times I disagree. There's things like, Charlie, Penguin Zero, Moist Critical. He just recently said that he did not care for 28 Years Later. I watched it with my son, and I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was a great movie.
There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with your favorite people, man.
Exactly. So it's like, but it's to find people there, and so it's not to say that it's 100% because I love 28 Years Later, but it's a lot better than finding the LA Times and whatever their reviewer thinks about it. Just don't listen to these movie reviewers is my thing.
So you can say whatever you want about IGN.
7 out of 10.
And how they take bribes and how they do whatever.
And how nothing gets lower than a 7.
I've been around since the beginning of IGN.
They used to be good.
And I'm hinting at something you just talked about. Every now and then they'll get people to review a game and they'll literally open the review with, I don't normally play these kind of games. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing reviewing it then? But there's one guy that works at IGN. I'm a racing fan. I play a lot of racing games. I'm also not a huge fan of most of the American series of racing. I get it. I know I'm a traitor. But there's a British guy named Luke Riley, and he reviews any non-American racing game. And I will take his word as gospel every single time because I've learned to trust him. He's right. And for some reason, they never not get him to do rally or Formula One.
Well, that's just it because that's his beat, and they're like, well, we don't want to get the guy that plays Madden every year to let us know what he thinks of Formula One.
And I miss a lot of the old guys, and they've got their own like segments on IGN now, like Ryan McCaffrey, who does I think the Xbox.
Yeah, he's head of their Xbox section. Yeah, Ryan.
And
McCaffrey's
I don't know
great.
who they got running Sony now, and then they've got Damon Hatfield, and they have their own little show where they have all three of them on, and I love that part. But yeah, when you're talking about game reviews, if it's not a European racing title, they don't always nail it because you're just like, dude, why are you reviewing this? You hate these fucking games. Kind of thing. So anyway,
so maybe I don't need to take the word of the movie reviewer whose favorite movie of the last 10 years was Moonlight and take their word as gospel whenever they say they don't like The Old Guard 2.
Yeah.
That's not going to sway me from watching it. I'm going to be like, okay, that's fine. I'm still going to watch it.
But man, I got to tell you, my lid is full. I have nothing else.
Well, I don't either. That is where we ended. I thought that, as we often do, I thought this was going to be a quick show.
Yep.
And it was not.
But in fact, this was the first time I looked up in the left-hand corner at the time and went, what in the actual H just happened?
But that's what we do here. That's what we do here. We have the conversations, and it's always going to be a conversation. I never want to change that. Yeah. And we want to have that conversation with you guys. Leave us comments. We'll chop this up and take some of these and put videos out there. Watch those, like, subscribe, comment there. And speaking of subscribing, again, we are still on our push to our first 100 subscribers. We are currently at 90. So we have 9 more 2-digit numbers up for grabs before we break into triple-digit territory.
And I want to send a shout out to Stacy and Lana Roy, who are our 2 newest followers on Twitter. X, and the Fuel Pod. Started following. I don't know who those guys are. They like racing a lot.
Yes. Of F1 podcast fame. You can just look at some attire here. You might be able to do, and the fact that we've plugged it many times. But yes, thank you for the follow.
Yeah. So anyway. All right. That's all I got, man. Until next week. I'm sure we'll have a bunch to talk about then because, Microsoft will be up to 14,000 layoffs.
Randy will be back on Twitter.
We don't have any game releases this week, do we?
No, actually, next week we do have some game releases. Don't make me list them offhand, but we do have some releases and things. Nothing big, nothing groundbreaking, nothing AAA. But I did see a list earlier, and it looks like some fun releases and some stuff like that. So we do have some releases, and I'm sure there will be some news. Hopefully it's not Randy, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we can stay away from Randy. See you all later. Thank you very much. You have a great week.
See you soon.